Good evening. Shabbat Shalom. Thank you for joining us on Living Waters, falling deeper in love with God's Word. I'm one of your hosts, Lauren Cruz.
And I'm Stephanie Pavlantos. Thanks for being with us, and Shabbat Shalom soon.
Thanks for being. Stephanie, are you on the correct side? I forgot to pay attention.
I'm good. You're good.
Okay. And everything is working on our streaming tabs. So that's
yes, everything's working and it is shared.
Yeah. Well, thanks for joining us. I've almost finished with our book, The Hebrew Yeshua versus the Greek Jesus, by Nehemiah Gordon. We have been going through it for the last few weeks. Short, interesting. I think this probably was the best part of the book. I really enjoyed these last few chapters.
Because he gave a lot of background and explained what a Karaite Jew is and all of those kinds of things. And then but today gets into more scripture, but he also gets into some other stuff I didn't know. So I was really excited.
I know. And he had a couple of quotes. I saw that you shared a quote online. I'm like, that's interesting, because I almost typed up a quote this week and it was a good one. It was a very good one.
Yeah. And I was sitting there downstairs at the kitchen table reading it to my husband because the last chapter was kind of short. So I just read in the whole chapter.
Oh, gosh.
So, I'm like, listen to this. This is really good. But it's frustrating because but we do divide him. Either he's a Hebrew Yeshua or he's a Greek Jesus.
Yeah.
And according to how we read scripture is what we read. And he makes a point at the very end of the book that depending on which one you follow is how you're going to interpret scripture.
Yeah.
And they're the same person, the same Son of God, but yet in our minds in the Western world, we see him as this Greek Jesus instead of the Hebrew Yeshua.
I saw somebody pop up, I want to say, I think it was TikTok, I'm not 100% sure, but it was a Jew, Orthodox Jew, but they're going to begin reading, they're calling it the NT experiment, the New Testament experiment.
Oh, I saw that you shared it with me, right?
And yes, I did. And they're going to, I guess, Galatians, I think is where they were going to start reading, but they wanted to read it with Hebrew eyes to see if Jesus, Yeshua, was truly abolishing Torah or if there's something else in there. Yeah. So totally not a believer. But I thought, isn't that interesting? And I'm really hoping Holy Spirit moves on some of those words.
And that's the thing with Nehemiah Gordon. He is not a believer.
He says that in this little section. Yeah. It's like, for the record, I don't believe this.
And he said that my view on Yeshua has changed since I read the book of Matthew from the Hebrew perspective and also in Hebrew. So he said, once I did that, it changed who I thought he was. Mm-hmm. And I thought, if a Jewish man, and we'll tell you more as we go, I don't want to give it all away now, but if a Jewish man can read, who doesn't believe in Messiah, and reads the Gospel of Matthew in his own language, and he sees Jesus as a completely different person than we do, who's wrong? Who's right?
I know. I think it's good. So we left off last week. We hadn't quite finished. We were on page 48, 49, I believe.
Yeah, we just started 8, right?
Oh, let me see.
Yeah,
we had just started chapter 8. So we may or may not finish this evening. there's
I'm going to open my Bible so we can read some of these verses because I think we started reading Matthew, what was it, 23 last week.
Matthew 23.
We didn't go through. He doesn't go through the whole book of Matthew. So that's one thing.
Literally, the whole book is 5 verses that he's talking about.
Yeah, it's a few verses from 15 and then some verses from 23. So he kind of compares because it sounds like he's contradicting himself. Yeah. At 15, he kind of says, don't listen to the Pharisees. They're blind guides.
Yeah.
They're going to lead you off. They're going to lead you in the wrong way. But then in 23, apparently, the first few verses, he's saying, the first 2 verses, he's like, don't do what they say, but not what they do.
Right. Okay.
So but that's how it seems.
I've got Hebrew 23 open. So
okay.
I've got that one.
Oh, Hebrew. You mean Matthew?
I'm sorry. Matthew.
It's the Hebrew Matthew.
The Hebrew Matthew.
we do recommend. I do recommend reading this book, and it's funny because we said this on another program a couple weeks ago. But when I first read this book, I wasn't even following Torah, and I had no intention to. Mm-hmm. I just enjoyed understanding the Bible from a Jewish perspective because I figured I would learn more looking at it through Jewish eyes than I'm going to learn in English or even, through Greek eyes.
Doesn't he have another book out that goes through the name of God, the names of God?
Yeah, I think so.
I don't know if it's a book that's published. He's on social media. You can find him on Facebook. You can find him on YouTube. He's out and about. So
definitely. And last week I'll put his website on here again for anybody who's interested. But he it is good to, if you can, go back and look at his website.
Mm-hmm. Very good. We may or may not finish this week or next week. There are 4 appendix articles in the back of the book. We've decided we're going to go ahead and read them and talk about them, but we're not. It just depends on, for sake of time and how much we get through. Yeah. Steffi, do you want to share what we're thinking of for the next?
Oh, yeah.
Section? Okay.
Yeah.
We do have another book picked out. So if you're interested in joining us and reading it with us.
So
there you go.
God's Divorce. Mm-hmm. Sorry, I have that turned slightly wrong. By Dr. Douglas Hamp, Hamp. I had him on my podcast this week. Great guest, knowledgeable man, knowledgeable. He he knows way more than we do. So, and he's a great storyteller, which he does. He can tell you the story of the whole Bible. If we had had a couple of hours, he could have taken me through from Genesis through Revelation, and just explained the whole story of redemption, the whole story of restoration. But he speaks 9 languages, and the way he came to Yeshua and the way he came to Torah was through a Jewish woman. He led her to Christ, and she led him to the Torah.
That's awesome.
It's an awesome story.
That's awesome.
He was a pastor at Calvary. What was the church? The big church, Calvary something. I don't know why I can't think of it, but Calvary Chapel. So every week a woman would call. He was on staff there, and every week a Jewish woman would call their offices, and they finally said, "Hey, you speak Hebrew. Why don't you talk to her?" And it became a weekly thing. He talked to her every single week.
Oh, and wow.
And a great story, but he told her all about Yeshua, and then she's like, "Okay, so why don't you keep the Torah?" Ooh. And he goes, "Well, we don't have to. We're Gentiles." And she goes, "I disagree." So he learned from an Orthodox Jewish woman.
Yeah.
Converted her, and she converted him, so to speak, to Torah. So
that's fabulous.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know any of that. I'm looking forward to checking him out now. That's great.
He told his story on my podcast, so if you want to hear it out of his mouth.
I will. Yeah, I usually do. I listen to you when I go for my usual walk, but I haven't been walking lately. So
I literally think I talked. It was an hour podcast, and I think I talked a total of 10 minutes.
Oh, good.
Yeah, so you won't hear me much.
That's all right.
Wow, really? Wow,
that's great.
Oh, cool.
Fabulous.
There were a few times I got in a few sentences, but I'm not complaining. I'm not making fun. It was just
good when you have
I literally just sat there and was interested in everything he was saying and the way he was describing it and explaining it. So,
when you have a guest that talks a lot, that's actually a good thing. You don't have to drag things out of them. So
I've had it both ways. And that was a little hard when I felt like, okay, I want this to at least be a half hour.
Yeah.
I'm having trouble here. So,
all right.
Anyway.
All right. Back to our page 48, 49-ish.
Yeah.
Somewhere in there. And actually 49, half of the page is footnotes. So I don't know if you want to, if there's anything.
It is. That's right. I mean, so do you want to just read from 23, read those verses and put the right word in, or at least according to the Hebrew?
Yeah. Okay. So he says, so this is what they're digging out. It says, this is King James. And I think we started this last week and then we didn't really get into finishing it. But this is Matthew 23, verses 2-3 in the King James Version. It says, the scribes and the Pharisees sit in Moses' seat. All therefore, whosoever they bid you observe, that observe and do. But do not ye after their works, for they say and do not. Okay, and then he looked at it in Hebrew, and so then he actually has it, the whole passage. I know you can't see that, but it's all written in Hebrew, and then he translated it into English, basically word for word. He stuck with the original. It says, the Pharisees and sages sit upon the seat of Moses. Therefore, all that he says to you, not they. Okay, so he's referring to he. Do diligently, but according to their reforms, he's talking now about the sages and Pharisees, do not do, because they talk, but they do not do. And so the difference is, when you read it in Hebrew, the pronoun has been translated incorrectly. And rather than the they, thinking that I'm referring back to the Pharisees, listen to what they say, but they do what they don't say. It's actually listen to what he says, listen to what Moses says. It's a direct reference. If the Pharisees are going to sit on the seat of Moses and share what Moses is teaching, listen to what Moses is saying.
Right.
If they say to do something and they don't, but don't listen to them because they don't do what they say they do. So
now I found this. So this is, I have to go back, and I forgot to tell you about this. But when you read, I have to get to 23. I have the Hebrew.
We did talk about this. We did do this last week.
Okay. But I brought it up. Did I? Okay.
And you showed us side by side.
Okay. Well, let me just show you, because I found that. I found something else this week.
Good. Are you able to do a share screen?
I think so. And it's going to be hard for people to see. So I might have to...
can take us
Let me see if I can. I don't know. I don't think it'll let me zoom in.
Take us, put it on and take us out, or do the one full screen just with the text.
Okay.
Here, I'll do this.
Yeah, there we go.
I'll take this out and I'll put this on. There you go.
Yeah, I wish I could get rid of the side here, but I don't think it goes away. Okay. Yeah, because it moves. So anyway, right here where you see chapter 23. So do you see my thing moving?
I do. Yes, I do.
Okay. So over here in the English, it says, upon the seat of Moses, the Pharisees and sages sit. Now all which they say. And so this is the English. But when you look over here, you're going to see this word right here.
Yeah.
And this is the word Yamar. It's a yod, an aleph, a meme, and a resh. And that is, it actually says he says right there. That is that word for he says. So even though it says he says right here, it's been translated as they. And I found that interesting, because it's like, why could you see that okay with
I can, but also Yamru is they, so, and it's spelled the same way, it just has a vav at the end.
It does, but this doesn't have that vav, so it's not plural.
Right.
It's just for he says. So so you know more than I do about that, but Hebrew, for the pronouns, they have different endings. So one ending will be they, and without that ending, it's he. And then it's a different ending. It's a feminine. So in this case, there's no ending. It's just the word he says, Yamar.
Yep.
And then Yomaru, or however you said that, is spelled the same way with a vav, so it ends with that oo sound at the end, and that means they. So we don't have that at the end of this word. It's just Yamar. So I found that interesting and wanted to share it. So
yeah. There we go.
There we go.
Okay.
So so anyway, I was going to, I don't know. I was kind of
I think that's important to show that. I think it's important to show that because like we're not making this up. He's not making this up. I mean, I think if you study any language, most people understand there are grammatical rules that indicate possession and time and pronouns. So So that's one of the biggest things that Nehemiah talks about in this book is, everybody is saying, well, we have to listen to what the Pharisees say. We have to listen to what the Pharisees say. But honestly, what Yeshua's entire message was, don't listen to the Pharisees and don't follow man-made traditions. And he rebuked them often.
Yeah. He did. And one of the things I've highlighted on page 48, the addition of that vav at the end of that word changes Yeshua's message from an instruction to obey Moses to a commandment to obey the Pharisees.
Right. He wouldn't have done that.
It changes it. Don't obey Moses, obey the Pharisees. That's not what he said.
It's not what he's saying.
But imagine if we read it that way, there would be a lot less people saying that the Torah has been done away with because he just told them to obey Moses. But of course, they would just say, well, it's not for us. But so in contrast, in Greek, the difference he says and they say is a much larger difference. He says this suggests that the Greek translator misread the Hebrew text as containing that extra vav. Maybe this Greek translator did not even understand who or what the Pharisees were all about.
Yeah, I think that's interesting.
And then the next page, you can bring this up if you want. Now this is not in the ESV. He does not have these, or practice and observe. Maybe those are the words I have. But he tells you what those two words are. So practice. It says here therefore, in verse 3, all that he says, meaning Moses, diligently do, but according to their reforms and their precedents, which are the two words that come next. Do not do. So do you want to explain those two words?
Yeah, he says according to it's a takanot, and I'm going to say it wrong. Ma'asim. There's the im. They're loaded with meaning when talking about the Pharisees. We already saw that the word takanot, we discussed the different 5 iniquities of the rabbis. We did that a week or so ago. And then the Pharisee jargon means enactment or reforms. And I think that's important, a reform, because that's going to change. That's a change. And more specifically, reforms that change the biblical law. And that's what I had underlined in that section. The rabbi themselves distinguish between biblical law and their own invented laws, which they call takanot, reforms. And so, I mean, it goes back to what the Pharisees say. They can even disagree with each other and they'll both be right because they're and the way they cherry pick scripture to kind of make their point, they'll omit a lot of the information. So
and he has a quote on page 50. Do you recall these halakha oaths, and that's legal decisions? These are reforms, meaning changing the biblical law.
That's right.
So, and this is Jastrow. He actually has a reference citing the Babylonian Talmud.
That's right. Okay, I think we actually pulled a little bit up about Matthew 15:3 last week. And I don't know if anything in there you wanted. He he does do another comparison of words, just so we can see that it's not the first time something like this happens where they've changed a word a little bit or changed a pronoun or something. It happens also in Matthew 15, verses 8 and 9.
Yeah. And he gives that other word too. We haven't on page 51. But what I read here, he said, if Shem Tov's text of Matthew is correct, then Yeshua was warning his disciples not to follow the man-made laws of the rabbis.
Right.
So he was actually saying follow God's laws.
Right. Not the man-made, not the reforms.
Yeah.
Not the reforms that were accepted, that were very much accepted. I mean, he's quoting the Babylonian Talmud, which they would have followed. And he's got a quote over here on page 51. It says, when a Pharisee does not know the law in a particular situation, he'll look for a precedent from one of his teachers. So even that is a practice that they'll go and they'll take what their teachers say and understand rather than going and researching it themselves. Gee, that never happens.
Yeah. And that was the second word in that verse.
Yeah.
So the reforms, he said in 23:3, Matthew 23:3, therefore all that Moses says to you diligently do, but according to their reforms and their precedents, do not do, because they talk but they do not do. So
I'm gonna say in mine it says, this is Matthew 23:3 in NASB. Therefore, all that they tell you, do and observe.
Yeah, practice and observe.
He is practice and observe. Do and observe, but do not do anything according to their deeds. So even in my NASB, it should say, therefore, all that he tells you, do and observe. Do and observe. So even within my modern Bible today, that's not a King James version. It has that.
Yeah, it doesn't have all that in there, but I think it's just really, honestly, I think the words could be that practice and observe whatever they tell you. And I think it's just been quoted. It's just been put in a whole different order. It's been switched around. The order has. So, but he basically says Yeshua is preaching against their reforms.
Right.
So he goes that change biblical law. So he wasn't changing biblical law, and he didn't like it that they were.
No, I think that's great.
Yeah. And he does quote Isaiah 29:13. And we don't even think about that because we don't take it back. But there were many times that both Paul and all the disciples, as well as Yeshua, they quoted the Old Testament without quoting it.
Right.
Without putting it like it was, they used it in their everyday speech.
I'm looking up Isaiah 29.
Love one another, or something. That's from the Bible, but we might say it.
Here's what Isaiah 29:13 says. It says, then the Lord said, because this people draw near with their words and honor me with their lip service, but they remove their hearts far from me, and their reverence for me consists of traditions learned by rote. So it's the same rebuke. What Nehemiah was saying was Jesus was using very similar language, like don't do what they say, don't do what they do, do what they do, don't, that same theme or idea or language is referenced in Isaiah 29:13. They're doing it because of traditions that have been learned.
Right.
They're drawing their lips, it's lip service. And so it's the same kind of theme. And so it's a reference to Isaiah without directly quoting it. It's using very similar themes.
It uses the same, and he does that somewhere else too. He talks about a word that's used in here in this verse, in these verses here in 23, that he goes, I've heard this somewhere else. And so he's on a hunt to find where he tells us where he found it.
Yeah.
So Jesus actually isn't just saying these words. He's quoting from Isaiah and 2 Kings.
Yes. Oh yeah. I went and looked at that up and read through that whole section. I thought that was interesting when you did that. Yeah.
So, these, Ma'azim, if that's pronounced correctly, were these is unique to Pharisaic Judaism. They're the precedents. And he says, but Yeshua was talking about a ma'azim of the Pharisees, which is something very specific. And you read that. So sorry.
It's okay.
So precedent is a teacher according to the Talmud. So
very good. All right.
And then the only thing I had highlighted was a little bit at the end of 52 and 53. So again, he's warning them not to look at the precedents of the rabbis as a standard for proper behavior.
I have the same
nor
thing
are they to follow the invented laws of the rabbis. Instead, they are listen to what Moses says. Because after all, the rabbinic claim to authority is that they sit in Moses' seat.
Right. I love that.
Yeah.
I mean, there's so many references, if you love me, keep my commandments. If you, not one jot or tittle is going to fade away and of the law until everything's fulfilled.
Yeah.
Follow what Moses says. There's so many references in the New Testament that Jesus is pointing us back to Torah.
And the proper understanding of it, because the Pharisees had changed it so much.
Exactly.
And I think it's sad because I somebody was commenting on a post I had put up on my group.
And it's the same thing over and over again. It's the same comments over and over again.
They tried to find these comments, and he basically said, I reject the Sabbath. I reject it. You follow it if you want.
He said, what are you going to do? You going to be mad because I'm lighting my lighter to go cook my pork on the barbecue? I'm like, wow. Think of that attitude, what you just said. Like, that's the attitude you're going to go before God. You're going to light your lighter and go cook your pork. I was a little shocked by that statement.
I was too. Yeah. And I was saddened because I thought, and I immediately prayed, like, Lord, I pray you open this man's eyes, because that's, and I was, my son was like, well, what does it matter? What does it matter what he says? And I said, it's open rebellion.
It is. It's such arrogance.
And he doesn't realize it.
Yeah.
And
I heard a comment too. What was once an abomination is now okay. God called it an abomination, but now these things are okay. So I saw that. But it's the same thing, Everybody says, well, we're going to follow Paul. And then I thought, did you hear what you just said? You're going to say, I'd rather follow Paul than follow the Bible.
Yeah. And Paul even talks about that, doesn't he?
I'd rather follow the Pharisees than what the word says. So,
and where is it? Right. It's in Corinthians where Paul says, though you say, oh, I follow Paul, I follow the apostles, I follow Apollos. Yeah. No, we follow Jesus. That's what he says.
Yeah.
He says that.
I know. Maybe we're Karaites, Stephanie.
I know.
I think I'm a Karaite.
I agree. I agree with you.
All right. Well, chapter 9, he goes into a little bit more, but
this is where he brings in.
But they do not do. And this was a phrase that he's like, I've heard this phrase before somewhere. Mm-hmm. And so it's in Matthew 23:3. But they talk, but they do not do. And what did he mean by this? This kind of seemed familiar to him. And this is where he went to. He did a little study on, and that phrase is repeated in 2 Kings. He specifically
17.
said 17, 28 through 32. And as a rundown, this is when, I can't remember the king's name. He came to power, and he brought in brought in people from Assyria into this section of
Hezekiah?
Israel. I'm going to go to 2
Let me go. I'll go look for it.
You
describe it.
Yeah. So they're openly not serving Yahuwah. They're openly becoming persuaded by the people in the area to worship their gods. So the king says, can you at least send one of our priests back so that we can, worship in truth? And in doing so,
Ahaz, the king of Judah.
Ahaz is a bad guy. He's a bad dude. Mm-hmm. So they actually allow one of the priests to come back, and we get this phrase. We kind of get this phrase, and
Yes.
it's kind of sad because he says, he's describing Samaritans. It's the area of the Samaritans and how they intermingled with Assyria. But it says, in the end, the Samaritans worshipped Yahweh while at the same time worshiping their foreign ancestral gods. And so they're trying to let's just check all the boxes. We'll just worship them all and make sure we please everybody. Mm-hmm. I actually wrote today's church. I underlined that phrase and I wrote today's church out by the side. But it's 2 Kings 17:28 through 32. Do you have that one?
I do. I can read it.
Yeah.
There's a lot of places in here in Hebrew, and I'm going to mess them all up. But so one of the priests whom they had carried away from Samaria came and lived in Bethel and taught them how they should fear the Lord. But every nation still made gods of its own and put them in the shrines of the high places that the Samaritans have made, every nation in the cities in which they lived. The men of Babylon made Sukkot Benoth. The men of Cuth made Nargal. And these are all the high places and gods gods they've made. Mm-hmm. Again, they all made their own gods. I'm just going to skip that part because I don't even know some of these things. So they also feared the Lord and appointed from among themselves all sorts of people as priests of the high places, who sacrificed for them in the shrines of the high places. So they feared the Lord, but also served their own gods after the manner of the nations from whom they had been carried away. So I'm not sure. I didn't get that phrase, but it's probably in another. It's probably left out of the ESV, honestly.
What is it? 21 through 23. Trying to see if I can see it. 2 Kings
28 through 32. Is that what you're looking for?
Yeah, I think I'm in the wrong chapter. Let me go to 17.
It's 2 Kings 17.
Yeah, 2 Kings 17. 28. So
I bet it's in Hebrew.
Okay, but every nation still made gods of its own and put them in the houses on the high places, and made every nation in their cities in which they lived. They also feared the Lord and appointed among themselves priests who acted for them in the high places. And then I think it's right here. They feared the Lord and served their own gods according to the custom of the nations from among whom they had been carried away into exile. So it says they feared the Lord. So they understood, they feared the Lord, but they also serve their own gods. Let's just check all the boxes and make sure we don't upset any of them. So I just thought that's very much our church today. It struck me a lot of believers today.
So let's see if I put this verse and see. I'm going to see if it says it somewhere else.
Okay. He's translated it. It said, until this very day, this is what the Tanakh says. Until this very day, they do according to their formal ways. They do not fear Yahweh, and they do not do. So it's and they do not do is that little phrase.
Yeah, that's the phrase. And I think it's just not in English. I think it's in the Hebrew.
It doesn't relate.
And then according to their statutes. So he's saying there's 4 parts to this. Like you read 1 and 2. According to their statutes and their judgments, and number 4, according to the Torah and the commandments that Yahweh commanded the children of Jacob. So that's in 2 Kings 34. So I didn't read that.
Yeah.
There it is. To this day they do, and it should say it's verse 34.
Should say they do not do.
Yeah. So it should say they do not do according to the former manner.
Yeah.
They do not fear the Lord, and they do not follow the statutes or the rules or the law or the commandments that the Lord commanded the children of Jacob, who he named Israel. So that's what the main verse is. The main verse there is what he is getting at. And he says, as I read this, I knew that. Did you read this part already about the Hebrew syntax? I think.
No, I haven't. I have not.
Sometimes one must read the Hebrew verse out loud several times to get the meaning. Having done this, the Hebrew made perfect sense, but had to be translated into English by reordering the 4 clauses of the verse as follows. So those 4 that we read, until this very day they do according to their former ways. That's 1. 2, they do not fear Yahweh, they do not do. 2, according to their statutes and their judgments. 3, according to the Torah and the commandments that Yahweh commanded them. So now he's going to put them in the right order. So do you want to read those 4?
Oh, let's see.
58.
Yeah. So he says Hebrew syntax, the way the sentences are structured is quite different from English. Sometimes must read, you just read that. You must read Milatz. Okay. So this is how they are ordered, should be ordered until
according
this very
Hebrew.
According to the Hebrew. Until this very day, they do according to their former ways. Until this very day, they do according to their former ways, according to their statutes and their judgments. They do not fear Yahweh, and they do not do according to the Torah and commandments that Yahweh commanded the children of Jacob. So he's saying to this day, they're still not following the commandments. And by the way, he said, because the punishment for this is that God would pretty much release them. I mean, the reason the priests were called is because there was a judgment that was placed on them, and they were trying to avoid the judgment. But even when you read through this, to this day, they still don't do what they should be doing. So
yeah.
Yep.
There was something here. So he said about the syntax, this is not an uncommon problem. So on the bottom of 57, with the Hebrew syntax and the reordering of things to make it make sense in English, he said this is not an uncommon problem when translating biblical Hebrew. For example, Exodus 12:15 literally says, 7 days you shall eat unleavened bread, but by the first day you shall completely remove leaven from your houses. For anyone who eats leaven, that soul shall be cut off from Israel from the first day until the 7th day. So it sounds like their soul is cut off from Israel from the first day until the 7th day. But that's not right. It should be, that's 1, 2, 3, and 4. He goes, it should be 1, 2, 4, and 3. So if you reread that, 7 days you shall eat unleavened bread, but on the first day you shall completely remove the leaven from your houses from the first day until the 7th day. For anyone who eats leaven, that soul shall be cut off. So we have it in the wrong order than it was actually said in Hebrew.
That's right.
So he gave an example of that.
I think it does make a difference. Yeah, I think it does make a difference.
So he
had an example of the same phenomenon in the New Testament is Revelation 20:4-5, with the phrase that says this is the first resurrection. It actually belongs at the end of verse 4, not at the end of verse 5. And this is an example of the Hebrew syntax preserved in Greek text, an almost comical example of the Torah. And he goes on and gives us others. There's more. So
where is that?
I'm still reading through that same footnote.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yep, I stopped reading it, so I didn't. Yeah, you're right. So this, you said that belongs at the end of verse 4, not at the end of 5. So so it's no wonder. And I told my husband, I said, it's no wonder. I said, how does the Lord even put up with us not getting so many things wrong?
Yeah.
And this person that had written, and he goes, all you Torah observant people use the same verses to say that, we're lawless and we're going to, be lost forever. And I said, no. I said, most of the people I know never say that Torah, your salvation depends on whether you're keeping Torah. I said, that's not true. I said, it doesn't. I said, and I didn't even go into any more, but the Bible does specifically put us into 2 groups. Those who keep the commandments and teach others to do the same. And the second group is those who don't keep the commandments and teach others to do the same.
Right.
And one will be called great in the kingdom and one will be called least in the kingdom. Right. And then we talked about this because now if you go to Revelation 19, somewhere around verse 9, 10, 11, it talks about the bride and the bridegroom. So it says, blessed are you who are invited to the marriage supper of the Lamb. So there's the bride, and then there are the guests. Two groups.
Mm-hmm.
Two groups. I had it, but two groups.
Yeah.
So so what are the two groups? Why is the bride and then there's guests?
Mm-hmm.
Who's the guest if everyone is the bride?
Mm-hmm.
Who's the guest? So I think those are important things to understand, and you should question those things. Like, why does it say that? Why is there greater in the kingdom and least in the kingdom?
Yeah.
Because we've been taught we're all equal in the kingdom of God. We're all the bride.
Right.
But clearly we're not all the bride.
No, we're not.
So,
okay. Anything else?
The last thing there on 59, it says, Yeshua was saying that like the Samaritans of old, the Pharisees have their own statutes and judgments which they follow, while at the same time they talk Torah, but they do not do Torah.
Mm-hmm. Very good.
So he would offend with some of the Messianic people who follow Judaism, because he does not follow Judaism in that way. He does not follow the Talmud and stuff. So 10 was a good chapter. It talks about,
I had a lot underlined. Mm-hmm.
And that is a lot. We read that a lot with Yeshua saying, you have heard it said.
Yeah. Very good. Okay. So chapter 10, let me try to find it. My page just flipped over here. Sorry, the wind blew my page across.
The fan.
Sorry, yeah, the fan. Okay. All right. So it says after a few weeks, he began to see this connection with the Samaritan language and everything. And he was aware that there was a Greek version of Yeshua and a Hebrew version of it.
Just read that whole part. Read that whole first paragraph.
It says, I became increasingly aware that in the Greek version Yeshua, what some might call the Greek Jesus, it had done away with many things in the Torah and promoted Phariseeism. On the other hand, the Hebrew Yeshua seemed to be trying to restore Torah, which had been covered over by years of Pharisaic rabbinic tradition and man-made laws. I put a big exclamation point and underline that whole section. Mm-hmm. It says, I found myself thinking out loud, was the Hebrew Yeshua a Karaite? So,
yeah. And he gets a lot of emails and he gets a lot of questions. And so from, probably Jews and Gentiles or Jews and non-Jews or however you want to hear it alike. So he actually said there was an audience member that asked how all this fit in with a series of teaching in which Yeshua says, you have heard it said, ... but I say. And so he goes, weren't these teachings doing away with various things in the Torah?
Well, let's read the next section, because I've heard different teachings on this little thing, and I'm like, oh, that's interesting. I think we got it wrong. So it says, we've heard it said, and then the passages in Matthew seems to be annul various commandments of the Torah. It seems like he's annulling them. He's up, and I've heard this, like he's giving you the essence of it by, so anyway, let me give you the example. If you're
at the top of 62.
Yeah, I'm right at the top of 62. Okay. You've heard it said, people long ago, do not break an oath, but keep the oaths you have made to the Lord. But I tell you, do not swear at all. And then you've heard it said, when you give your wife a divorce, you can't get a divorce. But then when you give your wife a divorce, like there's a lot of these little, you've heard it said. Yeah. Well, what he's referring to, about the oaths and the swearing and all of that.
Read Matthew 5:33 and 37. I think that's good if you want to read those verses.
Again, yeah. Okay. So this is Matthew 5:33 through 37. Again, you have heard it said, heard that it was said to the people long ago, do not break your oath, but keep the oaths that you have made for the Lord. But I tell you, do not swear at all, either by heaven, for it is God's throne, or by earth, for it is his footstool, or by Jerusalem, for it's the city of the great king. And do not swear by your head, for you cannot make even one hair of your head black or white. Simply let your yes be yes and your no be no. Anything beyond that comes from the evil one.
Yeah, and I remember hearing this as a kid. My mom said, if you're ever up on that, you just say yes. You do not swear.
Right.
And I'm like, oh, okay, Mom, I won't swear.
You can't, and that it's like it's making an oath. It's like you can't make an oath, is what.
Yeah,
and I've heard this too. Like,
or by
we don't sue, we don't make an oath, we don't swear by anything. You know, so what he's referring to. So the Greek Jesus was very clearly saying, don't make vows, only say yes or no. So I explained to my Messianic Karaite friend, and it was a sensitive topic even for the Jews, like because they don't do it. But if you read through Exodus 3:15, do you have that, or do you want me to turn to Exodus 3:15?
Oh, I can. Oh, yeah, I'm close to it.
Okay.
I was still.
Exodus 3:15 talks about, and God further said to Moses, "Thus you shall say to the children of Israel, Yahweh," and also he's referring to how Jews are supposed to not say the name of God. We've even see it when you write the word God, you'll put G-D so that you never say the name of God. Like it's even in I have friends who have followed the Messianic community, and that's a very rabbinic thing. Don't say the name of God. That's why they replace Elohim instead of Yahweh. They replace because they don't want to say
Adonai,
and Adonai. Okay, but here's Exodus 3:15. Okay, and God said further to Moses, "Thus shall you say to the children of Israel, Yahweh, or the God of your fathers, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, the God of Jacob, has sent me to you. This is my name forever, and thus is my memorial from generation to generation." So he's not saying, don't say my name. He's saying, this is my name. This is a memorial. This name is what I'm going to be remembered for forever. Here it explicitly says that the eternal name of the Creator is Yehovah, pronounced by Yahweh. You could say Yahweh. But following the rabbinite ban on the name, I've read the verse as, if you say aloud, you say Adonai instead of Lord. This is my name forever. This is my memorial from generation to generation. So,
and it's funny because I have this changed in my Bible. I have it changed and corrected in my Bible.
So, okay, what do you mean? You wrote
Exodus 3:15. I underlined, this is my name forever. I underlined the Lord because that's Yod-Veh Vav. My goodness, I can't talk. And so this is my name forever, and then remembered throughout generations. And that's not, the word is not remembered. So he goes on.
It's not Zakar. It's not Zakar.
It is, that's the root, but he explains here in the bottom of 63, he goes, when I became fluent in Hebrew, I discovered that this was simply a horrible translation. So when the word memorial is a horrible translation. He goes, the Hebrew word usually translated as memorial is zikri. I'm going to say it wrong.
It's spelled
Zikhi. And so he goes, this word comes from the root zakar, ZKR, which usually has a broader meaning than simply memorial. Because remember what the word zakar means when we use it a lot, it means remember. So it means to refer to something either with the mind, meaning remember, or memorial, or with the mouth, to mention. The same exact root appears in Exodus 23:13. 23:13 of Exodus. And the names of the other gods you shall not mention. It's from the same root. But he uses it as mention in a few chapters and 20 chapters ahead. He uses the same exact word, but he translates it as mentioned. Nor shall they be heard upon your mouth. So in Exodus 3:15, it actually says, "This is my name forever. This is my," it says, "mention me from generation to generation." So that's when he realized, oh, we are to say his name because we are to remember his name. We are to mention it so that we never forget it.
Yeah.
And he goes, this means we are required by scripture to mention his name.
I know.
By his eternal name, Yehovah.
Yeah.
So I love that part.
I did too. I had that underlined.
And then the next verse he goes into was also good. And he gives examples, right? 1 Kings 2:23, Jeremiah 12:16. He goes into,
I like the Jeremiah 12:16 verse. I have that underlined. This is what it says. It says, "And it shall be, if they nevertheless learn the way of my people to swear in my name as Jehovah lives, and in the way that they taught my people to swear by Baal, then they shall build my name upon." So this is a prophecy, and he wrote this. This is a prophecy for the Gentiles, not the Israelites. So he's saying the Gentiles will learn to walk the way of my people, and the Gentiles will swear by my name, Jehovah lives. The Gentiles will use my name as a memorial. So,
and he's writing this. He's writing this. This is how he's understanding.
So this is what he says. I love it. Okay. As Jehovah lives, then they will become part of the covenant nation. Obviously, this hasn't happened yet. It's happening right now, people. It says, but this is a promise that in the end time, the Gentiles will learn to swear the name of Jehovah as though they will be built into Israel. And I wrote, said from a Jew. I just wrote that out to the side.
Yeah, even he understands that scripture. That we are built into Israel.
Grafted in. That's the whole.
He
hasn't read the whole grafted in section, but he understands we're gonna be grafted in.
Because it was predicted in the Old Testament. It was prophesied.
Jeremiah. Yes.
Yeah, so this is a promise that in the end times, the Gentiles will learn to swear in the name of Yehovah. Yeah. And through this, they will be built, like you said. But maybe it is in a prophecy, because look at more and more people are coming to understand. Like, I just found out someone from my old church is actually they left and is going to a Messianic synagogue. My son had a breakfast with the man from his church, and when he got here, he brought Matthew back, and he goes, "Oh, I just wanted to meet you and say hi." And he's like, "You've done a great job with this boy." And I go, of course, he's 30 years old, but he goes, "You've done a great job with your son." And I said, "Well, thank you." And he goes, "My wife is Greek." And he goes, "We were talking about this the whole time." And he goes, "But my wife is starting to look into Messianic things, and she's reading it to me." And I was like, oh my goodness, how cool is that? So the Lord is starting to reveal this to more and more Gentiles, so to speak. I hate to call us Gentiles because we're really part of Israel, like you just said.
Yes, I think that's great.
We're not replacing Israel. We're joining them. Please don't think I mean we're replacing. I would never say that, because they were given all of these things. When we read in Romans, they were given the temple, they were given the Messiah, they were given the law, they were given the feast, they were given all these things, they were given the promised land. So we join them, we don't replace them.
Exactly. And if we're grafted in, same thing from the last book we read, what are we being grafted into, right? You have to understand that. So we're grafted into all of that, all of the history, all of the patriarchs, all
to the tree that is Israel.
Right. So all of it. And we're Gentiles given the law. You got to remember, it's God's law. It's not the Jews' laws. And there were others among the nations.
The feasts are the feasts of the Lord. They're not Jewish feasts.
Yeah. And I always say, well, was Abraham a Jew? Was Noah a Jew? Was, there are so many in Genesis alone that walked with God Enoch walked with God, right? But they weren't considered Jews. They were his people. It was his laws. So something to consider. Okay, we have like 2 minutes, Stephanie. Do you want to?
Yeah, I think we should stop there because this next part will get lost if we don't. Because he goes kind of back to Matthew 5:33 through 37, so that we can start there next week.
Okay.
Unless you think we can get through it in a minute.
No, I just had a comment. If this is really what Jesus was saying, then he would not be annulling Torah, but delaying the fulfillment for the end time prophecy in Jeremiah. So Jesus is saying, he's recognizing even Jesus is accepting this prophecy from Jeremiah. So what I found there was a small difference, but it was a difference between day and night in the Hebrew Matthew. So we'll pause there and we'll go ahead and look up the Hebrew Matthew. So for next week, we only have a few minutes. We just have this little section. It's literally 2 or 3 pages to finish.
Yeah, we'll stop on 65. We'll start with 65 next week, page 65. Yeah. And then we should be able to finish because some of the appendices are is that the right word? Appendices?
Well, we have one more chapter. We have chapter 11, I think.
But 11, and then some of these appendices are just like 2 pages.
So and we've decided to, next week will probably be the last week. We'll finish the book and we'll just, whatever we get through with the appendix, we get through with the appendix. It's like, they're like little essays that he's added to the back. So if we see
some of them are charts and we don't even need to go over glossary of terms. Yeah. We won't go over all those. So
next week will be the last week in this, and then the week after that we'll start God's divorce.
Or I'm going to see if we can get
the author,
Dr. Douglas Hamp, on our show
to kind of come in and introduce the book.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we'll see. Well, I'll definitely be reading. I go back to school soon.
I know. I can't believe it.
Don't want to go.
No. So this has been good. And please remember Lamb Network. If you're watching this on YouTube or Facebook, don't forget Lamb Network. You can log into that. You can see all their shows, and they have a prayer line as well.
Very much so. And pray for Mark, because I know Mark, he's the person over everything. He's been in and out of the hospital and just needs some diagnosis and some wisdom. And so we lift that up before our Heavenly Father, even now, as we pray for Mark. So we're going to go ahead and go. Thank you, guys. Shabbat Shalom. Have a great evening.
Shabbat Shalom.
If you missed today's show and want to watch it again or want to tell someone where they can watch this episode, go to lambnetwork.tv, where you will find this show and all of the other live Lamb show archives on the on-demand section of the website. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to tell someone about the Messianic Lamb Network.
We are richly blessed to bring you what we believe is the fullest, most diverse, yet up-to-date progressive teachings, discussions, and prayer programming you can find anywhere on this planet. Be sure to take the tour of the lambnetwork.tv website. I'm Stephanie Pavlantos, thanking you for joining us on the Messianic Lamb Video Network.